I tried going through the border. They wouldn't let me through the border. I tried getting a boat across, and I'd planned ahead of time that I was going to swim. I'm like, this is so important to me. I don't care. Like, I'm going to risk my life. I'm going to get into Israel. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to go to the spot that Ron Wyatt excavated. I had spoken to his team, I had spoken to everybody involved, and there was 2 different ways to get into the cave, and I felt like I could do it, but even if there was like a 1% chance of success, I was still going to risk my life to do this, for multiple reasons. One, because in my opinion, the only thing you should really put your life on the line for is for something like this. And also, too, I was really depressed, so it seemed like a win-win. I'm like, if I die, it's like, who cares, right?
Disclaimer. To the Pharisees and Karens out there.
How dare you!
All guests on this show do not reflect the opinions of the host. The purpose of this show is to have interesting conversations, stretch our minds, and grow.
Not what we want!
If you are looking for an echo chamber, viewer and listener discretion
is advised.
You talk about extreme.
What is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we're about to fill it up.
Join us as we travel and explore the vast unknown. It's a hero's journey with dragons to slay, damsels to save, and innumerable treasures to hoard. Torches high.
Leave the Sitchin mound of bull feathers out of it.
Look at it from a different perspective.
Hey, what is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because I'm about to fill it up. Welcome to the Prometheus Lens Podcast, the place where the conversations are always enlightening. I'm your host, Justin, and here we like to use the allegory of the Prometheus Lens to take a second look at everything. Hey guys, if you're new to the channel, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and welcome to the hero's journey. Be sure to check out our social media platforms down below it on their various sites. I'd much appreciate that. Well, guys, have another good episode for you, and this was one of those God things, as I like to say. I was on TikTok, and I share these reels and stuff every day, and I just happened to be sharing some reels, and somebody commented and was like, "Hey, I got a friend that's got some really good information that I think that you will want to hear." And I was like, well, yeah, sure, hit me with it. And so got the message in this woman, and she passed me this gentleman's information. And as soon as I went to his TikTok account and got to looking, I was like, I know this guy. I've seen this guy somewhere. And turns out we have a mutual friend with Trey Smith from God in a Nutshell. He's been on some of Trey's documentaries, so that was pretty cool, man. And we're going to be talking today about one of my favorite subjects. We're going to be talking about the Ark of the Covenant, and we're going to be diving into some of Ron Wyatt's work. But I'd like to welcome to the show for the first time, Kevin Cash from the Ark Movement. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, man. Super appreciate it. Yeah, I love Trey Smith. Just did a documentary with him, Under Golgotha. It's a great documentary. I pretty much had to beg him to do the documentary. He was just going to post the interview with us, where I wrote this article, which is on the Facebook group, Ark Movement. So that's the movement I'm doing. The movement is to get a confirmation that Christ's blood sprinkled onto the ark. And I wrote this article, and somehow somebody contacted him, kind of the same way it happened with me and you. And he was super excited. He's like, dude, let's meet up, man. So we met up. I went over the paper, and he was just going to post the interview. And I was like, dude, you should do a documentary. And I kind of had to beg him a little bit, and then he did it as a documentary, and it's super awesome, Under Golgotha. So if any of you guys are Trey Smith fans, go take a look at it. And then he just put a couple clips of me in, which is great, because I don't want a lot of clips. I just want the information getting out there. So he had a bunch of Kim Clement prophecies and his own clips of the spot that Ron Wyatt excavated, and he added that in, and it's incredible. It's an incredible documentary. And then also I'm on TikTok, but yeah, man, I'm so excited about this. I think that if this is true, and I say if because I'm trying to take a real humble approach, we don't know. We have no idea, because there's never been a confirmation as to whether this happened or not. So that's the Ark Movement. The Ark Movement is to get a confirmation that Christ's blood sprinkled onto the Ark. So the way we would do that is by getting a meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu or an investigation of the site. That's really the only way I think that we could get a confirmation. So if this is true, I mean, it's just going to be a complete game changer. Like, I can't even put into words how much of a game changer it'll be. It's funny, Joe Rogan was talking about this the other day, and I got so excited because a bunch of people were sending it to me. It was like, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, Joe Rogan was saying, if the Ark of the Covenant's actually real, he's like, that's going to change everything. And I was like, yes. So that's what I'm doing. So excited about it. And I think that if we work together as a church, the goal is to work together as a church to find out if this is true. And if it is, man, it's like, it's going to change everything for the rest of time because people are going to know that Christ was the Messiah, especially the Jewish people.
Yeah, and just from a 30,000 foot view too, it's a beautiful picture, and it kind of is like legalistic in a way, and we know God is a legalist. So it's like we know that Christ came, shed his blood to fulfill, the law.
Right.
His last words on the cross, he said, basically, tetelestai, it means paid in full.
Yep.
And, you had the Day of Atonement. They
Yep.
would go in that one day of the year and sprinkle the blood on the mercy seat and had that whole ceremonial type thing. So, what a picture perfect fulfillment.
Right.
If in fact, Christ's blood actually dripped on to this Ark of the Covenant, literally,
and the evidence
fulfilling the law.
A lot of people don't know. So the movement's really twofold. It's to popularize the understanding, so show everybody the evidence, and then work towards getting a confirmation. Because so many people right now, it's still probably about 90% of Christians and pastors don't know about this. Now that's changing a lot. And especially in the last couple of years, there's been lots of viral videos. Mitch Mueller off of TikTok, he put a video out that got like 10 million views. So pretty much everybody on TikTok knows this. But the church at large, especially the boomer generation, they still don't know about this. So part of the movement is to popularize the understanding. But the evidence that this happened is extremely overwhelming. Like when you get into it, there's a lot, most definitely.
Well, before we get too deep into it, just give everybody a little bit of background. Just kind of introduce yourself and let us know how this fell in your lap and how this journey started for you.
Yeah, the background is just the backstory is really, really intense. Like, it's super intense. But I had a prophecy that came to pass in my life that had to do with Bob Jones. I don't know if you know who Bob Jones is. He was
sounds familiar. Is he like a big evangelist?
He was a prophet, and he's really similar to Kim Clement. And Kim Clement prophesied a lot about the Ark of the Covenant that's already coming to pass. So I'm kind of a big fan of both of them. We have to be careful with modern day prophets, and I totally understand that because a lot of Christians are like, well, how do we know if they're telling the truth or not? And I think that if like people like Kim Clement, he's called so much that have come to pass that he's passing the test of a true prophet. So that leads me to the fact that he's probably, I think he's spot on. I think Kim Clement, he was blessed by God, and Bob Jones is similar. Okay. So he prophesied about the Ark of the Covenant being found, and he went into detail. He went into major detail, and he said that there needs to be specific, he even said there needs to be like specific dates to watch for. And one of them this was back in the 80s. I don't know if you should follow Sean Boltz. He's part of the prophetic community. He posted several of Bob Jones' prophecies, but one of them was this would all start to unfold when the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. It's what he said. Like back in the 80s. He was saying when the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, that's when all of this is going to start happening. And I'm like,
like the Cubs winning the pennant.
It's crazy though, man, because like the Chiefs didn't win a Super Bowl for 50 years. So now all of a sudden, they're winning like all of them. But yeah, so I had a prophecy come to pass in my life that had to do with the Ark of the Covenant. And so I thought maybe the Lord's leading me to the Ark. So I prayed about it. And before I knew anything about the scriptures, before I knew anything about Ron Wyatt, I just said to God, I was like, hey, if this is the path you want me to go down, you're going to have to give me authority in the matter, because your people aren't going to listen to me, God. Christians, a lot like Jews, are kind of stubborn, especially when it comes to things like this. There needs to be really, really, really good evidence for a Christian to believe this. So I just prayed to God. I was like, if you want me to do this, give me authority in the matter. And I was a weird way to pray it, but that's how I felt like God was, the Holy Spirit was putting that on my heart. So it was over the next several months, I understood that the scriptures say that this happened, that Christ's blood sprinkled onto the ark. And when I understood that the scriptures were saying this, then I was super passionate. I just got really passionate about it. I sold my house. I sold my business. I started traveling and just going from church to church. And that's where I really pick up the story. Ron Wyatt, he found the ark. He was the archaeologist who found it. He was not the only one to see it. There was General Gordon in the late 1800s. He also said that the ark was in a cave at Calvary. So these are two archaeologists 100 years apart saying that the ark is in the exact same spot, and the Bible is saying it's there. So once I understood the Bible was saying it's there, I just hit the ground running, and I pursued this with all my might. And that's what I've been doing the last 3 years. I've been doing TikTok videos, Trey Smith's documentary Under Golgotha, and just calling pastors, telling them, like, it's almost like the good news, man. I'm so excited. Like, I have a hard time not being excited when I'm talking about this.
Right. And has any of your explorations actually took you over to Israel yet?
So that's a real crazy story. When I first found out about this, so my backstory coming up to this is very, very intense. And one of them is that the Lord was taking everything from me, which is kind of, I guess history repeats itself, because this is how God generally gets somebody to do something. Like, he's kind of got to tear you down a little bit. Yeah. So I was losing everything. I lost
Elijah. You got to burn your plow.
Yep. And it talks about not looking back. Like, if you head towards the ministry, you can't even look back. So I was losing everything in 2020. I'd lost my business, my house, 2 ministries that I was a part of my entire life. And I was really depressed. I'd also lost a girl that I really loved and her son, and was basically my son. So going through that caused severe depression. So when I found out with a very high degree of certainty that the ark was at the crucifixion site, my first thought was, well, I'm going to go over there and find out. I'm not going to get on TikTok. I'm not going to do Facebook. I'm not going to do all these different things. I just decided to book a plane ticket. At the time, Israel was closed. So I snuck into Israel. I almost died. Crazy story. I ended up getting caught, which would sound like it wasn't God's will. But somebody who really inspired me to do this was Ron Wyatt, actually. He snuck into Saudi Arabia. I don't know if you're aware of this, but Ron Wyatt and his kids snuck into Saudi Arabia because they believed they found Mount Sinai. Because they thought they found the Red Sea crossing, and then they wanted to see if they could find Mount Sinai. So they snuck into Saudi Arabia, and they ended up getting captured and spent 70 days in jail, and it was quite miserable. They thought they were going to die. And so once they caught me, I was really upset and angry and bitter because I was just trying to do something for God. Like, my life didn't matter. And I was like, God, I just basically put my life on the line for you. So I only spent 7 days in jail. But when I got out and I got back to America, I was really depressed for a while. And I thought about giving up on this movement because I was like, maybe it's not God's will. If you're wrong on things, you kind of got to reevaluate your life. And I thought, maybe this isn't God's will. So I prayed about it a little bit. And one of the reasons I did not want to give up is because I truly believe the Bible is saying this, that Christ's blood sprinkled onto the ark. So at that point, I can't give up because the scriptures are the ultimate authority. So I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, well, maybe I'll take a different approach. And I was kind of hem-hawing around a little bit bitter. But once I found out that I stayed in the same jail as Ron Wyatt for the exact same crime, like, once I figured that out, I actually really teared up, and I was just crying, and I told God, I was like, okay, I'll double down on this again. I understood that it's not God's will that I do this alone. I think that was the message that God was trying to tell me. This isn't something you can do alone. This is something that you have to do as a church, as a whole. And so that inspired me to do the movement. Me sneaking into Israel and getting caught, and then I almost died. It was a real crazy story. But in order to sneak into Israel, the border was closed. So I just decided to swim through the Red Sea, and it's the last person who did that was trying to blow up a boat. They told me it was like 15 years ago was the last person to swim the Red Sea. And they killed him. They shot him and killed him. So, I was like super upset. But after I got out of jail and I realized that I stayed in the same cell as Ron Wyatt for the exact same crime, I was like, maybe God's repeating himself a little bit.
So you was imprisoned in Saudi Arabia?
Jordan. Okay, so here's what happened. Because everybody's like, how did you go to jail? If they're like,
when they were transferring him.
Yep.
Because they transferred him for a while. They held him in Jordan before his flight home.
So he snuck into Saudi Arabia through the Jordanian border, which was just south of where I was at. So the hotel, I tried going through the border, and they wouldn't let me through the border. I tried getting a boat across, and I'd planned ahead of time that I was going to swim. I'm like, this is so important to me. I don't care. Like, I'm going to risk my life. I'm going to get into Israel. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to go to the spot that Ron Wyatt excavated. I had spoken to his team. I had spoken to everybody involved, and there was 2 different ways to get into the cave. And I felt like I could do it. But even if there was like a 1% chance of success, I was still going to risk my life to do this for multiple reasons. One, because in my opinion, the only thing you should really put your life on the line for is for something like this. And also, too, I was really depressed. So it seemed like a win-win. I'm like, if I die, it's like, who cares, right? So in combination, when you understand my backstory, it kind of makes sense. But the hotel I stayed at was just south of Aqaba, Jordan, which is where they snuck into Saudi Arabia, where Ron Wyatt snuck into Saudi Arabia. So I'm curious to know if we actually stayed in the same hotel, because when he told the story of sneaking into Saudi Arabia, him and his kids said that they were at the hotel and they prayed about it. And they just felt like God was telling them to do this, all 3 of them. And I'm assuming that they were probably on the southern side of Aqaba. So we may have actually stayed in the same hotel. I'm not sure. But it's kind of the same thing, man. I just prayed about it and I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I know now that doing that was extremely beneficial for the movement, like beyond words can even describe, because now people accuse me a lot of doing this for fame. They're like, oh, you're just doing this for fame. You're doing this because you want to be popular. You want to get views on TikTok. And I'm like, yeah, but see, there's a problem, because before I ever shot a video, I was risking my life for this. That's how much I believe. So I think the Lord's going to use it dramatically in the future. And I think that God is already using it in Ron Wyatt's situation. Ron Wyatt, people call Ron Wyatt a fraud all the time. They're like, Ron Wyatt was a fraud. And I'm like, yeah, see, the problem I have with that, people don't sneak into foreign countries at the cost of their own life and their kids' lives, because when they snuck into Saudi Arabia, they knew they were risking their lives. So people don't do that unless they actually believe what they're saying. That's one of the reasons I believe Ron Wyatt, because he wouldn't sneak into Saudi Arabia and risk him and his kids' lives unless he actually believed he found the Red Sea crossing. So it gives Ron Wyatt a lot more credibility,
Yeah, I was having that discussion similar just the other day on I think it was on YouTube. Somebody had left a comment on one of my shorts and said, Jesus never existed. And I just replied back, which I'm learning not to reply to all these people, but sometimes I just can't resist. And I just replied back and I said, duh, D-A, Nile, N-I-L-E. I said, denial is more than a river in Egypt, my friend. I said, you're talking about the most historically documented man on planet Earth.
Yeah.
I said, and furthermore, I said, people do not willingly get tortured and die for a lie.
Yep.
All those apostles, all they had to do was say, oh, I made it up.
Yep.
And saved their life, but they didn't.
Yep.
People don't go willingly through torture and die for a lie.
Hi everybody, I'm Chris Vick. I'm the founder of Squatch Survival Gear, and today I'm here to talk to you about some of our most popular packs. In 2017, I founded Squatch Survival Gear because I was tired of seeing low-quality, mass-produced packs flooding the American market. I decided I'd make a pack that was 100% designed and manufactured in the United States, and today I'm here to talk to you about some of our most popular packs. This is the Night Howler. It was designed for EDC and travelers. As you can see, it's small. It's roughly 10 by 12 inches. It's designed for everyday carry. The pass-through pad allows you to put it on your luggage when you travel. This is the Rougarou. It's very civilianized, lots of attachment points. This is a 25-liter pack. We designed it for a little lighter load. If you need more than the Night Howler, you should try this. This is the Mothman, very similar to the Rougarou, roughly the same size, but it's designed for carrying a much heavier load. The removable waist belt will help you carry that extra load. You've also got your retaining strap if you're gonna take that on a travel trip. This is the Kakamora. This would be your first 72-hour pack, as we used to say in the Army. It comes with an internal frame, totally adjustable straps, heavily padded. You can carry heavy loads, carry lots of gear. This is the Rock Ape. It's a 45-liter pack, same internal frame, same great padded straps that you like, with a few extra features. If you're wondering what's with all the crazy names, well, that's because finding 100% American made is as hard as finding Bigfoot in the woods. When you're ready to carry our packs, contact us at squatchsurvivalgear.com or any of our social medias.
Hey, what is going on, guys? Hey, are you enjoying the show? Are you just geeking out and binge watching every minute of Prometheus Lens Podcast that you got available? And now you found yourself at the end of the line. Like, man, I've seen them all. I'm all caught up. Now I just gotta wait till every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard for the lives. Hey, let me let you in on a little secret, man. We got this thing called the All Access Pass, and there is tons of exclusive members-only content there. We have all kinds of episodes. You get these episodes 48 hours early. You get monthly Q&As and access to the private Facebook community and so much more that is coming on down the line. And it's your way of supporting the show and help me to keep doing what I love to do and what you obviously enjoy. So head on over to the website PrometheusLensPodcast.com and sign up. See you guys on the other side.
Yeah, and so I tell people now too the same thing. I was like, look, man, I wouldn't be doing these things unless I actually believed, you know. And I think that Ron Wyatt, he was really inspiring, and his kids, man, it's the same story over and over again. God uses these people that aren't super wealthy, they're not very powerful, they're just kind of your average Joe, and they are sold out to Jesus. And Ron Wyatt and his kids were sold out to Jesus. I know they were because they risked their lives. Like, no, people don't do that unless they actually believe. So I think they found the Red Sea crossing. Like, his kids were there. They're the ones who found the chariot wheels. The chariot wheels on the Red Sea, they found them. So his kids believed too. They all believe they found the Red Sea crossing. And I think they did. There's a good evidence that they found it. So, you know, for them sneaking in to find Mount Sinai, it was worth it. It's worth risking your life for something that important, you know?
Oh, yeah, I agree. Well, Kevin, before we go any deeper, just for those that are not familiar with the story, kind of give us just like an overview of Ron going to Israel and the kind of the backstory of that, if they're not familiar with it, because I don't want to assume that the people listening know. So just kind of give us like a little overview of the story, and then you can walk us through some of your facts and findings.
Yes. So Ron Wyatt was, him and his kids, they were at the Red Sea. They believed they found the Red Sea crossing, and he got sunburned really bad as they were scuba diving. And this is when they were looking for the chariot wheels. So he went up north to Jerusalem just to kind of see the different sites. And he was walking in the garden tomb. And he says, Ron Wyatt says, his hand lifted up supernaturally. He did not move it. And the words came out of his mouth, "There's Jeremiah's grotto, and the Ark of the Covenant is in there." And so the fact that that happened to him, he knew that it was God, and he knew that the ark was there. So he went ahead and went home. He's like, I got to go home and research this. He went home and researched it and realized that the spot that the angel of the Lord had him point at was the exact spot that Christ was crucified. Okay, so the Bible tells us where Christ was crucified with pretty stunning accuracy. It's not the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I know a lot of people believe that, but when you break it down, the spot Christ was crucified is the Garden Tomb. It's known as Calvary or Golgotha. So the evidence is extremely overwhelming that he was crucified there for multiple reasons. One, it has the skull face on the mountain, and the place was called the place of the skull. Also, history records and archaeology records that that's where they crucified people and stoned them. And then one of the big pieces of evidence that people don't know is John 19:41 says that where Christ was crucified, the exact same spot he was crucified. It doesn't say nearby. It says the same spot he was crucified was the same spot he was put in the tomb.
With all of the recent changes in the political and financial markets, there has never been a better time than right now to invest in silver and gold. When governments simply print billions of dollars in paper money in hopes of solving financial shortfalls, you know that it is time to buy and hold assets of true and lasting value. Free information is available to you right now by calling 888-747-3309. Whether you are a new investor or you're interested in preserving the value of your retirement accounts, we make it easy for you to make smart decisions for your financial future. The specialists at Cornerstone are here to serve you, work to satisfy your retirement goals, and communicate with respect. Call us right now at 888-747-3309. That's 888-747-3309. Or visit us online at cornerstoneassetmetals.com. That's cornerstoneassetmetals.com.
So the tomb is right around the corner. It's just right, like where they crucified people, if you go right around the cliff, is where the tomb is. And the Bible describes the tomb in extreme detail. It describes it. And I have all this on my, if you go to the Facebook group Ark Movement, and you click on Files, and download the paper, The Throne of God, I give all of the scriptures. So Ron Wyatt was excavating the spot that Christ was crucified. And he knew this. And his kids knew this. They knew, and they understood that he was looking for the ark. But they kept running into these square post holes in the bedrock. So where Christ was crucified was bedrock. It's hard to see in the picture, but this cross right here, it's rock in the background. This is all rock. Where Christ was crucified was known as Solomon's Quarry. So it was solid bedrock. And they kept finding these square holes in the bedrock. And they were thinking, maybe that's where the Roman soldiers put the crosses. Okay, so they found this one cross hole in particular. They had been digging for quite a while. They've been digging for like at least a year or two. And they found this square hole that had a stone over it. So they put the square stone over this hole. And when they lifted the stone, inside of it was a Tiberius coin. So they started freaking out, and they thought, oh my gosh, we found the actual crucifixion site of Christ. Or they were thinking that because a Tiberius coin is from the time of Christ. They didn't know for sure that it was Christ's actual crucifixion site, but they kept digging and digging, and it was like a year later, they broke into a cave that was right beside that spot. Well, Ron Wyatt explored the cave, and he found the Ark of the Covenant directly below the spot that they already believed Christ was crucified at, because they had found a Tiberius coin from that time. So Ron Wyatt, he took the end of a tape measure and broke it off, and he said that he was barely able to get it through the crack where the post hole was, where they had put Christ across. He was able to get the tape measure to go through the crack, and it was 20 feet below in the cave where the Ark of the Covenant was at. And so at that point, he realized that Christ's blood sprinkled onto the ark, because the Bible says the rocks were rent. And he had understood that when the Roman soldiers pierced his side and the blood and water flowed, that's when it says the earth quaked and the rocks rent. So where Christ was crucified was a quarry. It's talking about the quarry. At the cross is where it rent. And so the ground broke open and his blood sprinkled onto the mercy seat. And what's interesting about this, is Ron Wyatt isn't the first person to find it. And a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people are very unaware. But Ron Wyatt, he knew that General Gordon he had excavated. General Gordon was a map surveyor in the late 1800s, and he believed the Garden Tomb is where Christ was crucified. And he popularized that understanding. So in the late 1800s, Christians, they purchased the property. Well, the thing is General Gordon, he never said anything. We didn't know anything about him finding the Ark of the Covenant until 2011. So with some of his grandkids, they released some of his journals. And in one of his journals, he wrote down that the Ark is in a cave at Calvary, within the Garden Tomb. So this was not released until 2011. So Ron Wyatt never knew that General Gordon found it. And obviously General Gordon never knew that Ron Wyatt found it because General Gordon was 100 years before Ron Wyatt. So we have two people in history that both have excavated this spot that are saying the Ark of the Covenant's there, both of them 100 years apart, and neither one of them knew the other one found it. And it's like, it's totally a God thing, you know?
Right.
So Ron Wyatt, somebody posted a video to my Facebook group, Ark Movement. And it was a guy, he contacted me and he said, hey, I have a video of Ron Wyatt that's never been released. He goes, the reason I know it's never been released is because it's my video. I recorded it at my church. He's like, can I post it on the Facebook group? And I was like, yes, this is like gold, literally. Like we don't have any recordings of Ron Wyatt anymore. So he posted it on the group, and in the video, this is the first time this video has ever been published, was like 6 months ago. And in the video, Ron Wyatt says, General Gordon got within 10 feet of the cavern that has the Ark of the Covenant. So somehow Ron Wyatt knew that General Gordon got close, but he didn't know that General Gordon ever found the Ark. So that's the archaeological side.
He knew he was looking for it.
Right. So that's the archaeological side. We have two people in history both saying it's there. Then where I pick up the story is the scriptures. That's where I pick up the story. But Ron Wyatt, I think, found it. He worked really, 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 really hard. For those who don't know, he died in 1999. And him and his kids, they excavated for 10 years. And he tried getting the Ark out, and that was a whole nother topic. That was not God's will. But that's why a lot of people call him a fraud. They're like, oh, he's a fraud because he said he found the Ark, but he never provided evidence. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, just because you didn't find any evidence, or just because you didn't present any evidence, doesn't mean he didn't find it. I know he found it because of the scriptures. That's how I know he found it.
And one thing that I found just kind of hard was Christians today, it's like, yeah, we profess that we believe that, Jesus was casting out demons, that he was healing the sick and the blind, that he walked on water, that he died and resurrected after 3 days. These are very supernatural things. We classify them as miracles.
Yep.
But we profess with our mouth daily that we believe these things.
Yep.
But when you try to talk about, hey, I had an experience, I seen an angel, or I seen a demon, or any kind of, supernatural type experience, you're immediately dismissed and not believed by the Christians because they're the biggest skeptics. And I'm just like, guys, that's so ass backwards. It's like,
yep.
If you believe what you say you believe, this stuff should be right in line with your faith. It's like they think that after the cross, it's like everything stopped. There's no more prophecy. There's no more revelation. There's no more encounters. It's just all that stuff stopped. And it's like, so it's just very hypocritical.
It is.
When people hear this story of Ron Wyatt and he says that some angels appeared before him and said that he, the world was not ready for it yet.
Yep.
That it would be revealed in its time.
Yep.
And that they were going to take it. Oh, he's a liar. He just made all that up,
yep.
And it's like, it's just mind blowing to me that we have this very, very supernatural faith, but it's like the buck stopped, in the time of Jesus. There's no more supernatural stuff happening. It's just very hypocritical.
It's really sad. And what's interesting is there's a long history of angels in this spot. A lot of people don't know, but the spot Christ was crucified is also the same spot that Abraham went to sacrifice Isaac. It's also the same spot that Jacob saw the stairway going into heaven. Now, a lot of people don't know that one because that's from the book of Jasher. It says that where he saw the stairway going into heaven was Mount Moriah. Mount Moriah is where Christ was crucified. So, according to the book of Jasher, this is the spot where Jacob saw angels ascending and descending. So when Ron Wyatt said he spoke to an angel there, I was like, well, that is the gateway to heaven. And I believe that, it's one of those things that's hard for Christians to believe in the supernatural. And it's like, why is it so hard to believe in the supernatural?
Hey guys, you found yourself at the end of the line, and this means that you're not an all-access pass holder, so I gotta play the Gandalf here and slam it down and say, you shall not pass. But hey, if you'd like to join us on the hero's journey and get the rest of this episode, and not only this episode, you get 48 hours early to every single episode in the future, and gain access to an entire library of members-only content, access to the private Facebook community, and monthly Q&As with authors and speakers and researchers that I've had on the show. Head on over to PrometheusLensPodcast.com and sign up. It's quick, it's easy, and I'm only asking you to sacrifice a happy meal once a month. You're without an excuse. Homeless people come up with $5 to $10 a day for their addictions. Nobody's that hard up. Torch is high, guys.